with activist Teesta Setalvad and her bail hearing plea. And the latest that we're picking up is that in a big relief for the activist, the top court has granted bail to Teesta Setalvad. Remember, this is in connection with the Gujarat riots case. The charge is that, in fact, she was one of the several people who, quote-unquote, hatched conspiracy. And the latest that we're picking up is that the top court has granted bail to activist Teesta Setalvad. Finally, a big sigh of relief for the activist. Remember, the hearing was taken up by the top court today, and in fact, the SG had gone on to argue that if Teesta Setalvad, the activist, is granted bail, it would go on to, in fact, set a wrong precedent. However, the latest is that in a big relief for the activist, the top court has granted bail to Teesta Setalvad. Remember, in the past, the top court has observed that there is no reason to deny bail to the activist. And remember, this is in connection with the 2002 Gujarat riots case, and in fact raising serious concerns about the way activist Teesta Setalvad was kept in the custody in Gujarat for more than 2 months now. The Supreme Court, in fact, also yesterday, while hearing the case, a day before yesterday, in fact, on Wednesday, the Supreme Court also questioned how the Gujarat High Court issued notice asking for a reply after 6 weeks. And now today, in fact, in a key observation, the Supreme Court has granted bail to Teesta Setalvad. All right, I'm being joined by my colleague, Meenakshi Bhanja, on the phone line. Meenakshi, definitely a big sigh of relief for activist Teesta Setalvad. What exactly were the grounds on which she's been granted bail by the top court? What exactly were the SC's observations in this matter?
Well, yes, absolutely. We are in possession of the order that was dictated by the CJI-led bench of the Supreme Court. Remember, this is a bench which took a 5-minute break for in-camera consultation amongst themselves. The judges discussed the issue, and subsequent to that, the pronouncement happened where Honorable Chief Justice of India, Justice Lalit, went into the backgrounder of the case, what has been argued in the Supreme Court thus far. But coming back to the operative part of the judgment, the Supreme Court has ordered for Teesta Setalvad to be released on interim bail. And what has weighed on the Supreme Court's mind while granting this order is as follows, and I quote, the essential ingredients of investigation, including custodial interrogation, having been completed, the matter assumes a complexion where the relief of interim bail till the matter was considered by the High Court was evidently made out, unquote. So the fact that investigation has been completed in the case, the custodial interrogation period of Teesta Setalvad, where the Chief Justice of India has noted that she was interrogated, thoroughly. And she's been in custody for a period of about 2 months already. They have all weighed on the Honorable Supreme Court's mind, while the Supreme Court has gone ahead and granted interim bail to Teesta Setalvad just moments back. This is big breaking news we're getting for our viewers, where the Supreme Court has clearly noted that it is a case where interim bail is evidently made out, given the fact that the interrogation, including custodial interrogation of Teesta Setalvad, where she was consistently interrogated by the police, all these have been completed. This is a case where ordinary provisions of the IPC were invoked. This is not a case where sections of the UAPA have been extracted, and therefore, as we have been breaking to our viewers, the court has gone ahead and granted interim bail to Teesta Setalvad.
All right, Meenakshi, just for the benefit of our viewers, we're also being, in fact, joined by one of the activists on the broadcast to share their views, Mr. John Dayal. Sir, a very, very good afternoon to you, and thank you for making time to mirror now. I want to ask you here, how do you exactly view this case? Finally, there has been some relief from the top court side after Teesta Setalvad languished in jail for over 2 months. Do you think somewhere in this case also the rights of an under trial was infringed upon?
To say the least, to say the absolute least. Here, of course, the court had gone out of its way earlier when they said that the complainant, the people who have been fighting for justice, are the people to be jailed because they are trying to trap somebody or they're trying to conspire. That was the real miscarriage of justice. What Chief Justice Lalit has done today is restore some balance in that he and his bench have granted interim bail to Teesta Setalvad. What, of course, needs to be done is to get the case dismissed out of hand and then prosecute the police for foisting a false case and trying to intimidate people.
All right, sir, according to you, this is not the first time. In fact, in the past, we've seen the case in the case of activist Father Stalin Swami and poet Varavara Rao. What do you think should be the remedy and the provisions for accused in such cases?
It was the Supreme Court which had held long ago that bail is the rule, jail is the exception. If there's any part of the law which allows bail to be given, it should be given. And that bail should not become denial of bail should not become a punitive measure. It should not be a punishment. I'm punishing you by denying you bail. The maximum the judge can say is, I'm so sorry, but under the rules you cannot be given bail. But here, the denial of bail has been a punishment itself. In Varavara Rao's case, he came very close to death. The Delhi University professor in the under jail is another one who's very close to death. And Stan died.
Absolutely.
So here, although fortunately Teesta is in good health, but it was a very bad law which put her in custody.
So somewhere you feel that UAPA is being misused by the current regime. What is your take on that? There's this popular charge that in fact UAPA is also being misused.
How should I put it? UAPA before the Tata, and it's not just this government. This government has carried it to an extreme. But governments have formulated these laws not towards justice, but towards putting people in jail on the merest suspicion. So they don't have to do any forensic research. They don't have to follow the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. Anybody they don't like, whether it's a Christian or an activist or a Muslim or a Dalit or a tribal, put him in jail. That is the first step, first action. And UAPA is the distillate of all that is bad in the many bad laws in the country. People are in jail rotting for years and their cases have not even been heard. They have not even been heard. So they have not been found guilty. They're innocent and they're in jail. And they don't know why they're in jail. Their wives don't know. Those of them who are married don't know they're in jail. They've not seen their children. And the unmarried boys, poor chance, by the time they come out of jail, who will? What has happened to their careers? What has happened to their education? What has happened to their life?
Absolutely, Mr. John Dayal. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast, on your views on this big story. Teesta Setalvad granted interim bail by the top court. Remember, this is in connection with the Gujarat riots case. And on this note, in fact, I'm also being joined by Ms. Zakia Soman, activist. Ma'am, a very, very good afternoon to you. And thank you for your time to Mirror Now. How do you view this SC's judgment in this particular case? What is your take on that?
I think it's a welcome move on the part of the SC. I am happy that Teesta has been given bail. This has been, case of it has not been just and fair. It has been a matter of overreach on the part of the state. She is an activist who has been fighting for legal justice on behalf of the survivors of Gujarat riots. So instead of the survivors getting justice, now the activists have been picked up, which is wrong fundamentally. And I think she has been behind bars for very long without any evidence, without any substance really. So I really welcome that she has got the bail. And I think this should be taken note of seriously by the Supreme Court, that how, of late in our country, the rule has become denial of bail, whereas the law is based on the premise that you are innocent until you are proven guilty. And in this case, there is no case of guilt whatsoever. It has been, it has been an arbitrary kind of treatment which is being given out to several activists, and Teesta has been at the receiving end of that. I'm really happy that the Supreme Court has granted her interim bail.
All right. Also, do you think that there is a bid in current times to muzzle the voices of those who are fighting, rather, who are the champions of, human rights and free speech?
Definitely, because dissent is a very important part of our democracy. Because in a democracy, there will always be voices who will not agree with the dominant thinking. There will always be voices who will raise questions on the actions of the state and those in the government. It doesn't mean that those voices have to be muzzled. Unfortunately, that has been happening a lot nowadays. And she has been a prominent voice of dissent. She has been a prominent voice who has been, fighting for justice for the victims. And I think this has been an unfair kind of a targeting, just because she has expressed her views which do not agree, with the views of the government of the day.
All right, Ms. Zakia Soman, thank you so much for speaking exclusively to Mirror Now. So there we heard activists John Dayal and Zakia Soman sharing their views, saying that this is definitely a strong precedent set by the top court. Remember, Teesta Setalvad, activist who was accused of fabricating evidence in the 2002 Gujarat riots, has been granted interim bail by the top court.